So we went on winning all these titles in the paper every day and doing this, doing that. I broke up with Terry Lawless, which is not important to talk about because we're friends now. And I finished up hooking up with Frank Warren, who I'm still working with today. And we've had our ups and downs, but I was a bit of a wild man then, and he asked me to train a guy called Tommy Shields. We were talking about it coming up, and he could fight. He was a good fighter. And he said, Jim, Frank said, Jim, you're the only one who'll be able to handle him. He said, no one can't handle this kid. He's a good fighter. I said, leave him to me. Anyway, I got with Tommy, and he couldn't punch properly with his hands. He had bad hands. He couldn't punch a pad, he couldn't punch a bag, he couldn't spar. But when he got in that ring, he could fight. But he said to me, Jim, I'm having these 10 fights I've signed up. I'm cutting this short a little bit. I'm having these 10 fights with Frank. He said, then I'm going to Australia. He said, I'm going to make a lot of money. And I said to my wife, he's going to finish up getting killed. Because we both didn't know the law, but we used to talk about God. Like, is there a God? Is there really a God out there? Anyway, he went to Australia and he got saved out in Australia. And he wrote me a letter. He wrote me a bad letter at first, then he wrote me a nice letter. And he rang my wife up. He said, I'm a born-again Christian, Claude. He said, don't tell Jimmy. I want to tell him myself. But you know what wives are. She told me. But at the time then, something was happening to me. This is over the period of time being out, having a lot of money, 4 cars, big house, detached, never happy. And the wife was getting ready to leave me. And I didn't know. And if she'd have left me, I'd have thought, left me? I'd just give her a grand to buy, cuts of clothes or something. And that it was money, money, money. And I'm not saying you can't have money, and the Lord don't want you to have money as long as you use it wisely, right? And I never used it wisely. I'll hold my hands up stupid. And so as I go on, I finished up in West End Boys Boxing Club. They hired it out to me for a certain amount of week. I was training all the fighters down there, as I said, Pyatt, Gary Stretch, and I had all the youngsters in the best young team in the country. My son included, the Rowlands brothers, Jimmy Clark, loads of fighters. And one day my mate said to me, you heard about Benny Stafford? It's my friend there, Benny. And I said, no. And his boy, I used to train his boy was a good fighter. I said, no. He said, he's a born-again Christian. I said, what's that? What is that? He said, I don't know. So I said, well, if he keeps him off the booze, it might do him a favour. And then 7 years later, Benny comes down to the gym and he said, can I train in the gym? And I knew he was a born-again Christian, but I didn't know what it was all about. I said, yeah. Through like being respectful because he'd come from Canning Town and that, I said, yeah, you can bet, but train over there, Benny, don't get talking to the boys, all right? And I didn't say it, but I wanted to say, don't get talking about God because we've got a lot of fights coming up and they've got to concentrate. I've got to concentrate. Is that right, Ben? Something like that, mate. Is that right? He knew what I was on about, but I was trying to be respectful to him and, just keep over the... And in the end, one day, all the fights I had lined up with Frank and Ernie Fossey, that all fell through. And after a time, Benny was in the edit. He knew when I was finishing. He used to ask me if I wanted a cup of tea or coffee, and I would say tea or coffee, whatever it was. And this particular day, I had a phone call. This show's fell through. This show's been put back. This, that, and all the fun. I went like a lunatic in there, hollering and hooting and slagging them off on the phone, and kicking this and slamming the phone down. And Benny said to me, "You need the peace of Jesus." I went, do what? He said, you need the peace of Jesus. And I went, oh, Ben, and I've got enough problems trying to get these boys fights. We had an office like that. And then I walked out and I thought, in the meantime, while this was going on, something was going on in my life that was tormenting me. I would say that, tormenting me. I was going fishing. And all I could think about was Jesus, and I used to think, what am I thinking about Jesus for? I've got to go home. It's a lovely summer's day, catching fish like that. And I used to say to my mate, I've got a headache, I'm going home. Well, you're going home, and that's how it was all the time. And then Benny comes along, you need the peace of Jesus, and I thought, well, maybe this is the man I've got to talk to. So I asked Benny a lot of questions, most of them were silly and stupid. But in the end he said, listen, he said, I know a man who knows more about the Bible than I do. What was his name, Ben?
Robert Howarth.
Robert Howarth. He's a vicar. He's retired now. So I said to Benny, I wouldn't say forceful, but I got very forceful way. I said, well, ring him up now. I said, ring him up and see if you can make an appointment with me or something, so I can go around and have a talk to him. So he rang up and made an appointment, and I thought, right, I'm going to do the two of these together in one day so I can get on with my life. I want to get on with my life, my normal life. Because I used to love going out and have a drink all day Saturday. Anyway, so he rings him up, goes round and sees him, and he's a big tall fella. Hello Jim, pleased to meet you. Walked in his house. He said, would you like a cup of tea? I said, yes please Robert. So he makes me a cup of tea. Would you like to sit down? I went, no thank you. I don't know why I said no, but I just want to stand up. So I'm standing up with a cup of tea. Benny's sitting there, Robert's sitting there, Benny's sitting there. So standing, this is the first encounter I had with God. As I'm standing there, I felt like a little child. People used to come to me for advice. What are we going to do about this, Jim? Well, I just leave it to me, I'll sort it out for you. Do this. I felt like a little child. You know when your little grandson or your little boy hurts herself and they need a cuddle? Come on, you're going to be all right. And you kiss them. I've got grandchildren. That's how I felt. I wanted to be loved. And I stood there with that cup of tea and I thought, oh, I've got to sit down, otherwise I'm going to fall over. So I looked round like that, pulled a chair up, sat down. Two of them haven't said a word, Benny or Robert. I sat down and the tears began to roll down my face, and I whipped my handkerchief out and I went, no, no! But I couldn't stop for a minute or so, and then I pulled myself together. I apologised to Robert, shook hands with him, shook hands with Benny, and I went. And on the way home, I don't know whether I called him Lord, God or Jesus, but I asked him to help me. I asked for help. And within a week, I said that prayer of salvation. I was sitting in the gym. It took 10 months. I used to talk to Benny, go round his house, stay behind in the gym when the fighters are finished, talk. And when I was on my own one day, I thought, oh, this is real. There is a God, there is an heaven, and there is an hell. And when I die, I want to know where I'm going. And I drove that car home. I went upstairs, found this book, had the prayer of salvation. I said it on my hands and knees, and meant it with my heart, and confessed it with my lips. And the first person I told after I said that was my wife. And she said, how long's that going to last?